Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm, of course, your host with the most, Phil Better. And today we're going to be dealing with something that I think most of us have always dealt with, stress. But instead of just dealing with stress, we're going to be talking with a stress expert of Sara. Sara, thank you so much for being here.
Phil, thank you for having me.
I am excited to get started on this. I've been on your website, stressexperts.com. So much knowledge there. I got lost, but let's go back to the beginning. How did you become an entrepreneur?
Oh, goodness. So I was in the corporate world. Anybody have, experience in the corporate world? There's a few people out there. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, just a few of us.
We're living the dream at that point. That's what we, back then we were supposed to do, quote unquote, and climbing the corporate ladder. I was checking off all the success boxes, long-term relationship, doing half marathons with my dog, just loving the corporate world that I was in. I live in Las Vegas. It's a 24-hour town. So as you can probably imagine, as I got into the workforce a few years in, I started to feel burnt out. And I didn't realize that's what was happening for me. I thought the stress that I was experiencing was normal because everyone else that I was around was experiencing something similar. And I walked into work one day. It was about 4:30 in the morning. We were opening up our third Starbucks locations. That tells you how big our property was. I was working for a casino at the time. And a third Starbucks location had a little pressure to it. And my coworker and I sat down to take a quick reprieve, a quick coffee break. And, I took a phone call. My boss walked in, started yelling at my coworker for just taking this little reprieve. I came back in and found myself in the middle of their argument. I ended up quitting that day because the phone call that I took was actually my partner telling me that my dog had just died. And that day I had chosen work over my family, and I didn't put it in that context until just then. And what I found out, Phil, was that I was stressed out, burnt out, exhausted, overwhelmed. I had an autoimmune disease. My hair was falling out. I had no idea how much stress I was under. And so I went into the least stressful job I could think of at the time. I went into massage therapy and figured that, helping people in their bodies was also going to help mine. Let people just release their stress. But that too was stressful because I didn't know how to run a business. So I went to business classes. I did so many different things in my life, and also realized that it wasn't just about our bodies. It was about our mindset. It was also about, our emotional state. It was all these different things because I kept bumping into these different stressors along the way. And to answer your question about getting into being an entrepreneur, that got me to be an entrepreneur. Although I still have, corporate ties, I then realized that going into the digital world was a whole different ballgame. And it wasn't until the pandemic that I was working for a spa at the time because I'd been in massage therapy for about 15 years at this point. And during the pandemic, everybody was at home doing, not their jobs at the time. And one of my colleagues lost hope in her life. She didn't know what to do when she wasn't physically working. And she, gave it up, and she took her own life and left behind 3 children. And it was at that point that I said, Sara, you have to do something different. Although you can't physically help people with their stress relief in their bodies, you have to do it a different way. And so my partner Rachel and I decided that we were going to get into the online entrepreneurial world. This digital age was something that we needed to catch up in. And so we studied neurology, we studied neurolinguistics. We did everything that we could to get prepared to help people with everything else besides just their bodies. And Phil, it took a huge turn for us. And so now we get to do this online. Now we get to help people with their mind, body, and emotions. And that's what was the spark for my book called Stressed Out and Don't Know What to Do.
I love it. I love it. So when you figured you were stressed out from the corporate world, choosing a job over family is always I find like the crusp when you realize that you've chosen business over family one too many times. That's when you're like, nah, I'm done. I'm going to take care of me and my family, and then you're like, I'm still going to help people with the massage therapy, which I must say is a great thing to reduce stress is getting massage. But it's also you're taking on that stress from other people because you're removing the stress from them, but you're putting the stress kind of in yourself. And then you decided to try the digital world and help people with their stress. How did you decide to go into like helping people with their stress and becoming a stress expert?
Oh, again, when I had that breakdown, I didn't know what to do. Hence the book, Stressed Out, Don't Know What to Do. But I couldn't find anything out there that was going to help me emotionally and physically and just help me get through the things that I was going through because I thought I was alone. We tend to think that the problem that we're experiencing isn't anybody else's but ours at the time. And what I found out through talking to other people was that just wasn't true. There were so many people suffering in silence. And when we want to be successful business people, we don't really admit, well, I'm having an emotional challenge or I'm having like a mental struggle. It's not something that we discuss these days. It's been kind of behind the scenes, and especially 15 years ago. And so, we've made a lot of strides since then. But the reason why I wanted to get into it again is because, I was going through all of this and I didn't see a path. It wasn't a linear path, and stress isn't linear. Stress relief isn't an A, B, C. You don't go, hey, I'm stressed. I don't know it. Oh my gosh, I had this epiphany. Here I am in this stress zone. And then you just do, you take a bath and you're done with it. It's not that simple. But the tools and techniques that I've either created or come up with or put into my regimen to help clients are simple techniques. They are simple solutions. And when you start going toward stress relief, if you start going towards something that you really want and moving into a good space, that momentum moves forward and quicker and sooner and faster. But when we're on that stress cycle, oh gosh, Phil, let me tell you, that's a bad cycle to be on. And I kept going through it over and over. And what I realized is that stress is internal. It comes from the inside stressors, the triggers. So it could be a negative thought, a negative emotion, that feeling that you have of maybe it's not good enough or I don't have enough time. Or it can be an outside trigger. And that outside trigger can be, even somebody that cares for you saying, hey, are you sure you want to go into being an entrepreneur? Are you sure you want to do X, Y, Z? We've all had that in our lives, right? Our family, our friends want the best for us, but they're not always as supportive as they think they are. So I wanted to help be that voice and help guide people to the things that they really want in their lives. So that's a longer answer to your shorter question.
I love the long answers to my short questions because it gives me so much to not pile on, but grab to ask my second question. Or a future question, when did you decide that you wanted to write your book? Like when in your journey of doing all this, helping people with their stress, did you were like, you know what, maybe I should write this down and so that a bigger population can get a hold of it?
Well, I would love to say that, during the pandemic, I sat down and wrote this book in 9 months and put it all together and went, oh, it was super simple and easy because I have a process and have these 2-minute techniques to help you with exhaustion, overwhelm, and burnout. And then all of a sudden it was done. I would love to tell you that. And from the surface, that's what happened. But truly, Phil, what happened was probably about 20 plus years ago, I started meeting new mentors, and one of them was Mark Victor Hansen, and I heard him speak. And I don't know if you don't know who he is. He's a co-creator of Chicken Soup for the Soul, him and Jack Canfield. And so I got to meet Mark years ago, and I just watched him on stage, and I watched him impact an entire room. And it was because of his book. And I went, wow, the power of being a writer, the power of a book, the power of just being able to, pick up a few pages and read something that's going to help somebody, no matter when or what time of day or time of year they're going through a struggle. A book is amazing. And I wasn't the best writer. I wasn't the best reader. But when you get motivated and you start seeing, hey, there's something bigger than me in what I can share with the world, you kind of get over that a little bit. And so that's what happened for me. And that's why I put it into a book, because the seed was planted years ago. But, when my friend passed away, it was just a catalyst for me to say, hey, Sarah, it's time. It's time to help more than just one person on my table, or if I'm coaching them in their physical body through personal training, whatever that is, I can help people more than one-on-one at their pace, at their time, whenever they're struggling.
I love that. And I love how you realize that you're destined to help more than just one person. When you went and listened to that talk. What I would love a piece of advice, because I'm pretty sure someone listening right now, I'm pointing to myself, is probably feeling some stress, if you will. Not pointing any fingers at anyone as he points a finger at himself. What is maybe a simple technique to deal with the stressors that can come with every day?
There's so many to choose from, but I think something that's pretty universal, and especially because it's Invest in Yourself podcast. It's really starting with yourself, and I think that you're helping so many people with just what you're doing and how you're doing it through exposure and helping people in their journey, which is great, Phil. I think I have a little technique called the I Care system, and it's an acronym for go inside of yourself. The I is inside of yourself. You have all the answers. Wayne Dyer said it, and look within yourself. We can look for outside answers to help us, but really, truly, the path you want to be on, it's within you. And once we do that, we can, whatever problem we're going through, we can contain whatever the problem is, and attack or tackle or address or be aware of that specific problem, without all of the outside factors and everything else that doesn't relate to the specific problem or stressor that you're dealing with. And then have the awareness, what's really important in this challenge. Again, whatever stressor you're going through, whether it be in your business, whether it be in your personal life, if you're dealing with a health struggle, this pertains to all of it. Just have that awareness of what's happening and what's going on beneath the surface. Because going back to massage therapy, I have so many people that have a pain in their neck. Well, sure, we can address the neck, but really maybe it's their posture, the way they're sitting. So we work on their lower back. So relate that to a relationship. Maybe you're not getting along with your spouse, your significant other. It could be because somebody didn't take out the trash, but really what's beneath the surface is we're not listening to each other. We're not communicating well. So that layer deep, that awareness is really important to be aware of. And then R for the I Care system is realign. What is important to you? Is it important to you to not take out that trash? Or is it important to you to communicate with your partner and to go, hey, maybe you had a long day, I had a long day. We just want to have the chore being done, whatever that is, right, Phil? And so realign what's important to you and address that first thing. If that first thing is rest, if that first thing is communication, great. But if the first thing is to be right, then you want to be right. That's okay too. But just realize that sometimes that's what it is for us. And as humans, I think a lot of times we get kind of caught up in the wanting to be right, or we call the ego. But it's when you take that step back, what is important? And then E is whatever decision you decided to make. If it's to take out the trash or not to take out the trash, do it with gusto, energize it, do it with enthusiasm. Because when you do that, you let out all the doubt. You do something with 100% certainty, because if you have just 1% doubt, it creates 100% uncertainty. So if you think about a balloon filled with air, it's intact, but you have one little tiny pinprick in it, it deflates the whole balloon, doesn't it? That's 100% doubt. And so going through this eye care system, we can analyze it, and it can be a really quick and easy on the surface thing to help you through your stress, but we can dive deeper and to go, what's really going on, what's really the problems underneath the surface, and get to it at a deeper level. So it can be quick and easy eye care, or eye care in depth. So quick and easy.
I'm going to start using the eye care method and mentality and way of doing it, because I think that it's an amazing way of looking at it and taking care of the stress. And even if it's a surface level stress, it still resolves that, and then you can start going, and everything just becomes surface level as you heal, instead of trying to go deep too fast and explode, if you will.
Yeah, I think that's what happens with us a lot of times, right? Is, sometimes we're like, hey, this is a big problem, and we try and take care of and tackle it so deeply, but all we need is just to get to that next right step at that moment, and then move from there.
I love it. Yeah, it's true. Stress is not a fun game at all. It is probably the number one thing in the world that everybody agrees is the worst thing in the world, because we're all dealing with it together. When you decided to work with your partner, because that's sometimes can be very stressful, working with your partner. Did you find that your relationship changed, or that it strengthened your relationship?
The answer is both.
Oh, okay.
There's definitely challenges along the way. And, when you go into business with your partner or anybody that you're close to, there's a different layer that you connect with somebody. Because, think about a corporate situation. You walk into the boardroom or walk into your office, you have a business relationship, and you get certain things done, but you don't know the background of what's going on for that person. What's their personal life look like? What are the other things that they're dealing with? So the opposite is when you're working with your partner, you know all the things that are going on. So you have to create that boundary and set a limitation of, where does the business part, end, and where does the relationship begin again? And how do you integrate both of those? So when we coach our clients, we also, work with them on the work-life integration, because a lot of times, I had a boss one time. He was so just he was a challenge to work with, because he knew it all, and gosh, no, I'm not going to go too far into that. He was a great guy, but at work he was just really tough to deal with. I was friends with his wife, and at home he was kind and caring and doting over her, and I'm going, wow, that's a totally different person. Well, when you have those two different lives, you're being pulled apart further and further. And so you're not really in alignment with yourself. So it's more of a struggle, and it's more energy. So when you can integrate the work life, working with your partner or whatever other thing you're dealing with, it's a lot easier to be the same person, just have different boundaries.
I like that. The boundaries is something that's super important for the world to set up, and at least the word, I'm a podcaster speaking for a living, forgetting words. Respect the boundaries that your partner puts up and you put up as well, to make sure that the relationship can work even better and stronger. I do want to know, because I know you've had a varied career, starting from working for a corporation, going into the massage therapy, which I'm jealous of, because like, who doesn't want to have someone that just knows how to get that knot out, and you got it in your neck, you're like, it's taken care of. But then you're going to teaching people on stress. Obviously, you've overcome a lot of dark periods and stressful periods. Is there a memory in the last little while that helps you whenever you do get maybe a moment of serious stress or dark thoughts that kind of push you off the entrepreneurial spirit?
I got to fill up my cup recently. I'm from Hawaii, and I got to visit home just recently, and there was the tragic fires that just happened in Maui.
Mhm.
And I couldn't do anything about it at the time. I'm on the mainland and most of my family is on Oahu, but I do have family in Maui. And I felt like I couldn't do anything. I felt constricted. And I honestly, I use my own, I use my own method. So I did the eye care system for myself and went, sir, what can I do? What can you do to make this different or change something or make it for the better? And so I started interviewing some of my friends, and I created a limited series podcast called Hope for Hawaii. And I got to visit Hawaii, got to talk to a few friends there, created this podcast, and it's just for people to, whenever they're feeling down, um, to be able to get hope, to have resilience, and to just turn it on whenever they want to. Because I know when I was going through those dark times in my own life, there were times where I was struggling so much, and we didn't get really into this, but that I wanted to, just walk into the ocean myself and not come out. I was to that point in my life at one time. So I understand in a different way how it feels to lose hope and to have a dark time. So creating that podcast really helped me to get back on track, and hopefully is helping other people to move forward in their lives. And I got to record an episode with a good friend of mine. She and I did our books together. We launched our books around the same time, and it's coming up on the year anniversary for our books. And I was thankful enough to hit bestseller for my book. But my friend that it's a little difficult to talk about, but my friend and I got to record an episode of her podcast, or my podcast, excuse me, and she had lost a child, and we're kind of reminiscing about that and how she got through it. And it was right before I went to Hawaii. I came back from Hawaii, and I was going to put it together to launch the episode. And unfortunately, her and her husband died in a very tragic accident. And so that's kind of the last piece and the last interview that she had. And she too has 3 kids. And so that episode's about to come out. And I just think about that, Phil. I think about how I still have the ability to speak to people and help people, as well as help myself through these tough times, because stress costs us a lot. It costs us our health. It costs us our relationships. It costs us a lot of money. It costs us struggling in our business. And, without going into all of the details about that, I think, wherever you are, if you're listening, what stress is costing you. And so to be able to have this gift of being able to put out this next episode with my friend is a gift. So I think that's what keeps me going. Things like that.
So first off, my condolences to the loss of your friend, because that's I can't even imagine what that's like. I'm not looking forward to ever having to deal with that. But yeah, no, losing someone so close is very difficult. So I'm passing on my condolences to you. But also, there's that magic that you have that memory of that shared experience that you can always listen back and hear it and enjoy those moments that you have with her. So that's an amazing piece of history that you have, and a great memory to keep you going in those hard times, knowing that you're helping people. Wow. I don't know where to go from that.
Well, but here's the thing too, Phil, is that now her children have a piece of her that she's talking about, and she's talking about hope and resilience, and that will live on forever. That will help her children. It'll help anybody that she's ever touched, and it'll help other people move forward too. And I'm thankful that I didn't put it off, and she didn't put it off, and I got over my anxiety about, creating something that's going to be out there forever. And I think if I can bring this up, you're working on this project to help a certain somebody,
Oh yes. There's a certain someone that is supposed to be helped. Yeah, it's true. We do this. Us podcasters and entrepreneurs do something to help everybody. We're helpers. That's what we do. We love to help people. And speaking of help, and thank you for that little segue. That was a very smooth segue. You're good. Are you sure you're not a professional podcaster as well? I'm putting together a book for my nephew, as I've previously mentioned, and I would love to have your advice for 10-year-old Sarah. She's right beside me. She's a Spitfire. She's ready to go take on the world. What's the one piece of advice you want to give Sarah at 10 years old?
At 10 years old, there's so much to learn. And, I think as we know as adults, that the imprint stage of our lives is, up to 6 years old and then up to 18 years old with other cognitive behaviors that we have. But the values that we create at a young age stay with us forever. And I had an instance where I watched my uncles talk badly about my other uncle because he was different, because he did hula, because he was gay, because he was just a different kind of a person than they were maybe understood. And for me at a young age, I heard that about 3 or 4 years old, and it stifled me. It stifled me so much that I didn't express myself very well. I wasn't as outgoing as maybe I could have been. And those things can happen on a big scale or a small scale for children. And so what I would tell my 10-year-old self would be, go inside of yourself, what's true to you, and really pursue that with as much joy and compassion as you can. Because it only gets layered on, that stress, um the amount of difficulty, the amount of um, priorities and commitments that we have as adults. Be joyous and be yourself.
I love it. It's a great, great piece of advice, and I can't wait to have that in writing to hand it over. I think that may be one of the first ones I put up there. Be yourself. Sarah, we are coming to the end of the episode. Hate it, because that means I have to let you go. But before I let you go, I want to jump off screen here. Please let my audience know where they can find you, where they can follow you, how they can get your book, anything you like to promote. The floor is yours.
I really appreciate that, Phil. Thank you so much. And if you are experiencing any kind of stress out there, which we all are, you can pick up my book. It's called Stressed Out and Don't Know What to Do. It's on Amazon as well as Barnes & Noble. But to get connected to me directly, I want to give you a gift. And it comes with a couple gifts, actually. And, I'll help you with certain struggles that you're dealing with at the moment and meet you wherever you are in this stress cycle. And I'll explain the stress cycle to you in our free gifts. And you can go to Free Gift from Sara. That's SARA, freegiftfromsara.com. And I'll send you lots of different great things to help you through whatever you're dealing with right now. And see me on social media as well. It's Sara Nakamura, SARA, Nakamura, NAKAMURA. But go get your free gift at freegiftsfromsara.com.
Make sure you get that free gift. I'm already on the website signing up for it. But Sarah, I want to thank you so much for coming on, sharing your story of how you went through stress to become the stress expert and help others deal with the level of stress that they're dealing with. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Phil. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
And to my audience, of course, the show notes will have all the links down there that you guys can fill out, and make sure that you follow Sarah and get that free gift from her, because I'm guaranteeing it's probably going to help you deal with the stress in your life. And once again, always remember to invest in yourself.